Hello, I'm John Nichols, and for 42 years I was a GP or family doctor in Guildford, which is near London. Now that I'm retired, I'm having a lot of fun doing things I always wanted to do. And one of my favorite things is asking difficult questions on this YouTube channel. So, for my question today, I'm going to share with you. Can science be expressed in poetry? Well, some people would say, heavens, no, science and poetry are different as chalk and cheese, you can't mix them. I would, of course, disagree. And to tail end of it, I'm going to give you some of my thoughts about the Grim Reaper. So, what about expressing science through poetry? Well, it does have a long tradition going back to the famous and very popular Roman poet Lucretius, who died in BC 55. He was strongly influenced by two Greek philosophers, Democritus and Epicurus. Democritus, who amazingly 2,500 years ago came up with the atomic theory of matter, and Epicurus, who founded a philosophical school, the Epicureans. So, in the poetry of Lucretius, he discusses science, atoms, etc., and he wrote poetry about animal adaptation and evolution. So, here's an example of his poetry, and I'm going to read a bit of it. Anidum genetrix hominum devomque voluptas, alma Venus, caeli subta labentia signa, quae mare naviganum, quae terras frugentiferentis, concelebras verte quoniam genus omne animatum. Well, I did do a bit of Latin at school, but I wasn't very good at it, so let's go straight to a translation. Alma Venus, mother of Aeneas, a man of divine pleasure. Alma Venus, under the sway of the heavens, the signs tell us to sail the seas. You can celebrate the fertile lands through which every living thing is born by the light of the sun. For Daedalus, the flowers drape the earth. The equators of the bridge laugh at you, but the sky shines with diffuse light. So, what was he talking about there? Well, for a start, Aeneas was the mythical founder of Rome, who escaped the burning Troy and eventually married into a local tribe and founded Rome, but all mythical, really. Venus, his mother, was a god, and so very ancient world. But he makes the point that all life on Earth depends on the sun, which we now know to be very true. Well, nearly all life, anyway. Um, and we know, of course, now that it is all via photosynthesis, which he explores this sort of thing, but doesn't quite crack photosynthesis. So that's a bit of science in that. And I'm not going to do any more Latin, but here's another translation. First, then, I say, the mind, which oft we call the intellect, wherein is seated life's counsel and regimen, is part no less of man than hand and foot and eyes are part of one whole breathing creature. But some hold that the sense of mind is in no fixed part seated. They are wrong. So what's he saying here? He is saying that the mind is a function of the brain. It is just as much a part of the body as the foot or the eye or the hand. And it is not something spiritual wobbling around inside us. In other words, he's saying that he does not believe in the soul. Well, that was controversial back then, in the streets of ancient Rome, it was controversial, and it is still controversial. But it is a scientific viewpoint. So, I myself wanted to express scientific ideas through poetry and song, and I was particularly impressed by the late American cosmologist Carl Sagan, who sadly died in his late 60s of leukemia, too young, and many people miss him. But before he died, he wrote some wonderful books. And I read his book, The Cosmic Connection, and it really fired my enthusiasm. He explains how giant stars have such enormous gravitational force that they contain hydrogen and helium that are crushed and crushed until they form higher elements like carbon, iron, and magnesium, and all the elements needed for life, in other words. And then they go into their final phase of collapse and explosion in a supernova, which splashes all these new elements around the universe. And then they get caught up in another cycle of creation. It's a sort of evolution, really, which contains all the chemicals needed for life. And when I put that book down, I immediately wrote this poem. Red senescent giants die, spewing ash across the sky, twisting slowly round and round, and round and round until they find a faster pace, a new star born, and planets form, patterns in the sky, patterns in the sky. Tossed upon a lonely shore where never life has stirred, yet carbon chains obey the law, survival of the fittest, random snaking, sunlight condensations making, patterns in the sand, patterns in the clay, patterns in the sand. A trillion minute carbon gems throughout the ocean wide, a symbiotic dance perform, then suddenly provide a magic ring, a living thing, patterns in the cell. In nature's realm, the thinker's gaze seeks out the future through a haze, perceptions piercing space and time, sifted, sorted, slowly ordered, given meaning by the mind, at last record, perhaps for countless generations stored, patterns in the brain, never ending, life transcending, patterns in the brain. So I hope you found some science in that. And my next poem, which I'm offering you, is the result of a colour challenge at a writer's workshop I attend. And we were told to pick a colour of the rainbow and write a poem about it. So I thought, well, the other guys are going to choose either red or blue or green on the whole. I'm going to be different. I was right, and because I chose brown and nobody else did. But brown is a color I'm going to stick up for. This is the case for the supremacy of brown. Mud and soil are rich and brown, and that's where life began. The richness of the compost bag is brown and fertile too. The roots of plants and trees go deep as leaves reach out for sun. Deep in the soil of brown they go, where networks ebb and flow. One thing of which I'm sure, that soil is brown and pure. From tiny acorns, oak trees grow and crown themselves in green. When birds and planes fly overhead, no other colours shows, but down below the trunks are all a friendly shade of brown. Tree huggers say that it's a shade of brown that softly glows. One thing of which I'm sure, brown tree trunks will endure. Some people say that blood is red and some that it is blue, but when it spatters on the floor, it quickly turns to brown. And when it clots, it turns to brown and hardens like a glue. And when a killer leaves at night, it's brown that greets the dawn. One thing of which I'm sure, brown is the shade of gore. So brown is life and life is brown. This color king deserves a crown. So for my third scientific poem, I'm going to look into the whole issue of how our body changes over the years. Science has shown that nearly every atom in our body is replaced over 7 years. And yet one part of the human body is consistent throughout life and beyond after we're dead. And I wonder what that could be. Well, I'll explain in the next poem. Atoms come and atoms go. Osteoblasts and osteoclasts dance the dance of time. Astrocytes and neuroblasts dancing in my brain. In 7 years of changes in the tissues of my being, most atoms are replaced, and yet I feel the same. Atoms come and atoms go. Some parts must surely stay the same. My memories are intact. I think they are for sure. So surely what's unchanged is the contents of my brain. No, it's the memories that endure. Atoms come and atoms go, yet one part endures beyond the rest. Harder than bone, it lasts so many years. Yes, the enamel on your teeth can pass the test. 100 years and many tears, enamel is the champion, retains its situation. Enamel atoms stay intact for 50 years and even more beyond our death. Oh boy, poor old John Brown. All that's left of him is his teeth, and Earl's about to bump into that. Yeah, I mean, the flesh dissolves, then the bones dissolve, and the teeth are left behind. And interestingly, the Denisovans, who were relatives of the Neanderthals, lived in East Asia mainly. And we know from a few bone remains, but mainly teeth, that they existed around about there. So it's mainly teeth that tell us another Denisovan remains, and you're lucky if you find any bones. So that's the important message, that everything else in our body changes over 7 to 10 years, but enamel is the one thing that doesn't change. And I'm going to finish off with a change of topic, as I promised. I'm going to tell you about my dealings with the Grim Reaper. Well, the 3 verses. Verse number 1 is actually a little cheating because it's about something that happened to my brother, but the other 2 verses are definitely about me. So here we go. I was riding along on my little blue bike when I was flattened by a car that was turning right. No warning. After 5 weeks of hospital, they sent me home. Now I'm staggering around like a rickety gnome. As I stand by the window and look at the sky, I think to myself that I nearly died. And then I saw the Grim Reaper going by my door, which isn't funny when you're 34. I saw him pass by my window pane. As he passed, he called my name. He said, "Hello there. I see you, Jack. I'm leaving now, but I'll be back." Grim Reaper, go away. Yikes. I was working as a doctor on a housing estate, doing my bit for people and state. I started coughing and I just couldn't stop. From head to toes, I was feeling hot. Every time I coughed, it hurt like hell. This situation rang a bell. I got a brick in my chest. I got pneumonia. The colleague said, just go home, John, just go home. So I was standing again by that window pane, and then I saw the Grim Reaper going by my door, which isn't funny when you're just 44. I saw him passing by my window pane, and as he passed, he called my name. He said, hello there. I see you, Jack. I'm leaving now, but I'll be back. Uh, again. Well, I was walking, visiting the uni in the summertime, walking across campus. I was feeling fine, and a ball of fire erupted in my chest. I knew it was angina because it eased at rest. A coronary artery nearly blocked this time. I got it fixed by a friend of mine. But, oh, I saw that Grim Reaper going by my door, which isn't funny when you're just 64. I saw him pass by my window pane, and as he passed, he called my name. He said, hello there. I see you, Jack. I'm leaving now, but I'll be back. Oh, again. Yeah, yeah. And now a final visit from the Grim Reaper. Hey, Grim Reaper, I see you coming this time. Why don't you come inside and have some tea or wine? I think this time you've really come for me. You're welcome to come in my door because today, yeah, I've turned 104. Huh, Grim Reaper, eh? Oh, time to go. Oh, 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 goodbye. Oh, oh dear. And I think, yes, that's the end. So, goodbye, everybody. Goodbye. Thanks for watching.